Ladies and gentlemen, next speaker is Dr. Sharina Abdul Halim. Is a senior lecturer at the Institute of Environment and Development, Lestari, UKM. Currently, she is the head of research program on environment, economics, and social sustainability cases in Lestari, UKM. Please welcome Dr. Sharina Abdul Halim.
Thank you very much to the very warm welcome. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day to everyone. Firstly, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to the Cooperative Institute of Malaysia, especially to Yang Berbahagia Encik Muhammad Roslan Bani Amin as the Director General. And also I'd like to thank to the Program Coordinator Encik Fitri. So I'm very happy to be here to be able to share a little bit what I know on sustainable, risk resilient, and the game change or the game plan. And before that, I have to share my screen. Okay. I'm so sorry for this. Are you able to see? No.
Yes, but not the screen that is supposed to be there.
Yes, ma'am. The
Not the
screen
slide.
of your computer.
The presentation, I think.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Dr. Sharina. Everybody is facing problem when coming to presentation. So
Thank you so much.
all of us, isn't it?
Yeah. Is it okay if I ask the kindness of the Secretariat to share for me?
Okay, I think he's trying to work it out, Mr. Fitri.
Thank you so much. So while waiting for Encik Fitri, I think I'll just go ahead and just I like to begin. The topic that I was given today was on sustainable risk resilient games plan, but I like to focus a bit on the insight from community-based adaptation on that. And as we know that we are all facing the impacts of COVID-19 and climate change, and these are all being experienced across all regions of the world. And there are rapid development of different types of adaptation that are being done as mainstream strategy to manage this risk, in which has resulted in the emergence of broad range of adaptation policies and also management strategies globally. However, success of this initiative is largely dependent on the acceptance and the uptake of local community, in which to date, as we see, remains a significant challenge. And as how we are experiencing today, we realize that the revitalization of our economies, our society, build on sustainable, equitable vision for a future that will benefit everyone. And we can talk from the aspects of renewable energy projects to create jobs and better energy or cleaner energy, to using forest restoration to provide cleaner water and new habitats for animals. And these are all done to create a fairer and a greener future. And we are all facing now with COVID-19, and COVID-19 has taught us many lessons. And one of it, yes, as our previous speakers was mentioning, that COVID-19 has taught us lessons as well as opportunities, but it has also shown us how deep the inequalities exist in our society as a whole, and making it more vulnerable. And therefore, with this vulnerability, we have to take time to understand the lessons that are learned in order to build the resilience in this era of great uncertainties. So I think my slides are still not there, but I'll just continue talking to you. Um, Hopefully it'll come by soon. So how do we get by or get ahead together in these times of uncertainties? The present climate of our uncertainties legitimize the growing and the fundamental role of cooperatives and the continuous growth of poverty in developing countries and the shortage of social protection, with the aging population in the industrialized countries, further emphasize on the need to increase for cooperation and thus making the growth on the role and the place for cooperative in our society today more relevant. However, there needs to be more evidence, more documentation, more sharing platforms together amongst all the great initiatives done by the wonderful cooperatives that we have to develop effective supporting programs in order for us to further assist the cooperatives in order to move forward effectively. And we understand that cooperatives are facing issues and challenges, especially when we are talking at the grassroots levels. We see that there are poor linkages between local livelihoods, ecosystem functions, and resources available at the grassroots level in operating the cooperatives. One of the reasons is that the lack of understanding how actually the society building their adaptive capacity in the face of the changes, especially in the face of the uncertainty that we have currently. And the approach that I would like to share with you today is on the community-based adaptation, looking into the cooperatives, where community-based adaptation here is seen as something that an initiative that is done to address the root causes of vulnerability within the communities. And how do they approach that is by utilizing the wealth of the knowledge and experiences of the local communities to deal with the localized impact of the situation that are faced by them. For example, in terms of resources, in terms of environmental changes, in terms of social equality and whatnot. And we see that there are a lot of barriers to this in terms of looking at community-based adaptation, is that oftentimes the communities lack in terms of preparedness, they are struggling to adapt, they lack in terms of resources to recover if they are faced with shocks. And if they are faced with shock, it takes them a long-term sufferings to recover. And oftentimes when they can't recover, they just migrate. And furthermore, the fragile governance and the regional instability would also contribute to the overall barriers to community-based adaptation. So how do we manage with these barriers? Isn't that something that we can do? Definitely communities are resilient. And how can we understand this resilience is by understanding the culture of the communities, where we see that culture bestows a high degree of resilience on societies in order to face with the risk, in order to adapt to the shocks. But at the same time, it cannot be assumed that this capacity of the community is limitless. So there are key concepts in this presentation that I'd like to share with you today. Is first on adaptation. So when we talk on adaptation, what is it actually? So adaptation is actually the process of adjustment to actual or expected climate and in its effects. And in human system, adaptation seeks to moderate or avoid harm or exploit the beneficial opportunity. And in some natural system, human intervention may facilitate adjustment to the expected climate and its effects. This is from IPCC 2014. And the second concept here is on resilience. We talk so much about resilience, but resilience is both tangible as well as intangible. So if we talk about resilience, what do we really mean? It's about the capacity of social, economic and environmental system to cope with a hazardous event or trend or even disturbance, and to respond or to reorganize in ways in order to maintain the essential function, the identity, the structure, while also maintaining the capacity for adaptation, for learning and transformation. This is also coming from IPCC 2014. When we understand this situation or what I've just shared with you on the concept adaptation and resilience. So the question...
Dr. Sharina, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, it's up already.
Okay.
Which slide do you want me to go
Can you
to
go
now?
to slide 9, please?
Slide 9.
Yes, slide 9.
Yeah, on the committee. This is the key concepts, yeah?
Yeah, we mentioned on the key concept. Now we like to... We went on this already. Resilient, yes, please go ahead. And another one. Yes, here we are. So since I've mentioned to you, I couldn't do it without this figure, but now, Alhamdulillah, Encik Fitri has kindly been able to put this up. So I'll be able to refer to you on this figure. Okay, the concept was adaptation and resilience, but today we want to understand risk. So what is risk? Risk is understood as a function of hazard, vulnerability and exposure here. So when we talk about all of this, we need to understand, so what are the actions that we can do to reduce vulnerability? For example, social protection, for example, livelihood diversification, insurance solution, hazard-proof housing and infrastructure, for example. And when we talk about exposure, you know, the risk to exposure, what can be done? What are the actions? For example, it could be coastal retreat and resettlement. It could be land use planning that are risk sensitive, or even early warning system and evacuation. And if we talk about hazard, what can be done? So some of the action would be ecosystem-based measure to reduce coastal flooding, mangrove to alleviate coastal storm energy, water reservoir to buffer low flows and water scarcity. But all of these have the elements of adaptation, but there is also that limit to adaptation. For example, in terms of the physical, ecological, technological, economic, political, institutional, psychological, and social cultural factors. Yes, please move to the next slide. So there is that capacity to adapt. Now that we see that social resilience and adaptation, they are not fully considered as to how actually people are confronting this in terms of the short-term and the long-term crisis in the past. Oftentimes it's just like, you know, rather ad hoc. And how is the facilitating the affected communities to self-identify what are the adaptation possibility, what are their preferences, what are their priorities, and how about the wonderful collaboration between communities, researchers, scientific experts, policymakers, NGOs, CBOs, and whatnot. So all of these are actually incorporating the social inclusiveness and empowering the people by the local stakeholder to engage and to ensure that community are involved. These are all the paramount factors for success. Yes. Next, please. And we understand that in times of crisis, the crises are also about managing compound risks, like if you have climate risk and then now you have COVID-19. So these are all aggravated impacts. And what does this mean for the current risk, and what does it imply for how can we make decision making to manage this risk? So there is that value of social protection. We need social protection to deal with many types of shock. And cooperatives are already demonstrating their ability to reorganize themselves, to reinvent themselves, and to cooperate. So there is the need now for a community-based economic model in which is so vital to address these critical moments. Okay. So we see that when we need this community-based model, we see that the economy, that the traditional and the new economy, how about this? There is also need of this paradigm shift where we see the traditional economy, you know, it's like resource focused, labor intensive, rigid, capitalist, and requires control, typically vertical, mass production. And how about the new economy now? With the changes that we are all adapting to, it requires knowledge intensive, high skill talent, more flexibility, profit sharing. It requires collaboration, horizontal trust orientation, mass customization, and the location is no longer that significant in a sense. Okay. Yes. So I like to give a very small insight from existing community-based adaptation initiative done in the Langkawi UNESCO Global Geopark, Malaysia, which is situated in the northern part of Peninsular Malaysia. And here we see that communities are working together to cope with the crisis and of COVID-19, where you know Langkawi UNESCO Global Geopark, for those who have been to Langkawi, it is the premier tourism destination of Malaysia. It received more than 2 million visitors annually. But for this year, we see like complete drastic, almost declining tourism arrival, and that would definitely affect severely on the livelihoods of the local community and as well as the cooperatives that are very active in the island. Okay, next. So this is the map here, just to show you that with a 120,000 population of an area size of 478 square kilometers, Langkawi is the first UNESCO Global Geopark in the Southeast Asia regions, and it's a very established tourism destination ever since it was announced as a duty-free island in the 80s. And you see now, we look at this map, and we see that there are various products developed. There are 7 trails developed on the island in order to boost the tourism development sustainably. Okay. Please. But you see on the statistic, just to show you that having said that they are premier tourism destination, you see that in this figure here, Langkawi also went through various situation, for example, like tsunami and the air. There was an incident on the airline industry, and now with COVID-19, all of these definitely will affect the Langkawi performance. But furthermore, how is our question, the community living with this situation, the changes that are faced by them, where, as you know, more than 70% of the local community depend their livelihoods on tourism sector. Okay, please, next. And I show you a case here where community-based adaptation initiative is being conducted since 2016. It's in Kubang Badak Biojo Trail. It's situated in the northern part of Langkawi, next to the very famous cable car, Mat Cincang Geoforest Park. Okay, and you see there are 12 sites here. There are 12 sites here on the map that have been identified with the work of the scientists as well as the local community of Kubang Badak in order for them to develop this area as a niche tourism market. Okay, please, next. And the koperasi here or the cooperative here is the Fishermen Cooperative of Sungai Kubang Badak, established since 2016 of this Bio-Geo Trail with 25 active members, but there are actually more than 70 people involved, but 25 are the ones who are very actively participating and consisting of traditional fisherfolk, tourism operators, as well as hotel workers. And the 12 sites identified together with them to develop geotourism product. So we have developed together with the local community booklets, script for local tour guides and training modules. And we are looking forward to the participation of youth social entrepreneurs of Kubang Badak and to develop the niche tourism that are innovative and sustainable. Okay, next. So this is the aerial view. As you can see, this is a very pristine mangrove area in Langkawi, in Kubang Badak. And as you go along with the pictures, please. So you see that you have this majestic view of almost untouched by the mass tourism. So Kubang Badak Bio-Geo Trail has the highest utmost potential to develop this as an innovative and sustainable geotourism product in order to help to boost the livelihood of the local communities. Yes, next. And there's a lot of geological, biological, as well as cultural sites. And this is one of the biological sites of where you can see the charcoal kiln or kebok arang, estimated to be about 300 years old. Okay, next. And this is the famous cave or Gua Pinang. And this cave is very special because there's also a lot of other chambers in the bigger cave, but it is being threatened with some development activities of the cement factory that are situated very nearby to this cave. So there's a lot of effort to preserve and conserve this cave, together working with the cement factory. So this is a very unique collaboration here. Okay, next please. And we are empowering local Encik Osman Ayub. He is a very famous local guide here. He is briefing the participants on the Kubang Badak Bio-Geo Trail. Okay, please. And the booklet I mentioned to you, this is a collaborative effort and we are giving back. The scientists from the University, UKM, and working with the Kubang Badak community cooperatives of the fishermen, we're giving back to the community. We make it into a book so that they can use this as a reference when they are guiding their tourists in their very niche tourism area. So I think you realize that I keep on mentioning niche tourism because we are not promoting mass tourism in this sense. Okay, next please. Just a little bit more, I think. So in terms of the time, readiness, capacity, and capabilities, you see here there is a division into 3 phases. The starting is from 2016. Obviously, we are still in phase 1. We're making a difference. We're trying
Sharina,
to... Yes. Yes.
Dr. Sharina.
Yes.
3 minutes left.
Thank you very much. I'll wrap up soon.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
Yeah. So we are making a difference. So in what sense? As you know, the heritage conservation of the geology, the biology, the culturals are all related to the Kubang Badak Bio-Geo Trails, but they are also related to socio-economic, to the education, to the environment. So the phase 1 is about making a difference, to diversify the livelihoods, to create the awareness, to improve the skills, as well as to protect and conserve resources, and to instill that deep appreciation towards heritage among the local as well as among the tourists and other stakeholders on the island and elsewhere. And then we will move along to phase 2, where we need to create a lasting impact. And then phase 3, where we need to ensure the empowerment and the fulfillment of this Kubang Badak Biogeotrail Trail. Next, please. So what is the way forward in managing risk and building resilience in the context of community-based adaptation in Kubang Badak Biogeotrail Trail? So I'd just like to summarize in these points here. Next, where you see the Mandela Effect here. I just like to sort of remind us that what is it? In Kubang Badak Biogeotrail Trail is about Mandela Effect. Is that when you can create an enduring success, not because you are perfect or but because you're lucky, but because you have the courage to do what matters to you. And this is so timely in this challenging time. And you see this resilient framework that I indicate in this slide is just to show you that we are also going through this process of resilience framework in Kubang Badak Biogeotrail Trail. That means that we are also together working. It's a social experiment with the community to empower them. And we see that what we need is a clear sense of direction, benefit, focal point, leadership, and impacts to the community that they feel that are sustainable. And we need planning, of course, be it informal or formal. Yeah. And finally, on my last slide, is mostly the crucial aspect is that the effort put together through collaborative partnership and the iterative learning process that we are learning from each other with the local community, the cooperative group, and the researchers, the scientists. And we realize that all in all, what makes it work is the social network that matters. You know, we have key individuals who are working closely together with us, who are passionately involved with us, and the platforms for communication. Now that we can't go to Langkawi physically, how can we go there? It's through social media. We're having a lot of webinars and a lot of online session and working together with the community of Kubang Badak Biogeotrail Trail in order to make this happen, even though in this challenging time. So with that, I thank you and I apologize for the inconvenience, but I appreciate your attention and listening to me. Thank you very much.